Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekulona, and this is Nashville. Yesterday, a 17-year-old Antioch High School student shot two other students and then himself. The assailant and one of the other students have died. The third student was treated at an area hospital and was released. This is the second time in 2 years that there have been a fatal shooting here in Nashville. And while it seems like everyone can agree that no child should experience the terror of a high school shooting, nor should any family experience the pain of an unimaginable loss, we just can't agree on how to get there. This hour, we're going to get an update on the circumstances surrounding yesterday's tragedy, and there are things that are known, and there's also speculation about things that are unknown. Today, we're going to focus right now on the known, and we want to hear from you. What do you think can be done? Do you still hold hope? Call 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. We're going to get to your calls in a moment, but first, WPLN reporter Catherine Sweeney joins us. Catherine, thank you for being here under these tragic circumstances.
Yeah, I wish it was a little different.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so do I. Can you tell us what you know about the circumstances surrounding the shooting yesterday?
Yeah, well, I think that there are a lot of questions still lingering about what led up to this and, what was going through his mind. We still don't have a motive for the death of one of the shooter's classmates. But yeah, some materials have been leaked online. We're trying not to repeat a lot of that, but it does seem that there was a lot of radicalization involved.
We want to play some of the reaction to what happened from community leaders and parents. Let's take a listen to that.
But there is kind of this moment where you see the mask slip a little bit and you can kind of see the fear in their eyes because this isn't a drill. This isn't, one of those things that we practice because we don't know how many shooters there are, where the shooters are coming from. You hear voices of the SWAT teams down the hallway and you can't really decipher exactly what they're saying.
I could only imagine the sentiment or the feelings that these parents are having. And, for it to be so close to home, it's a tragedy anywhere, but it hits even harder when it's right here in your front doorstep.
I'm also a parent of a 6-year-old baby girl in metro schools, and it is every parent's worst nightmare to get a call like many of the parents of Antioch High School got today. Not just in Tennessee, though. This is something we're facing all over the country, and it does not have to be this way. We do not have to live this way. And the people who are in power and in control continue to neglect the cries of parents who are losing their children and millions of other parents who live terrified that they will drop their children off at school and never see them again. We don't have to do this.
Tonight, when it's all over with, I'll lay in the bed and I'll cry. Because I can't right now. I gotta make sure everybody's good.
It is definitely heartbreaking. Violence has once again impacted our community, and it's very unfortunate that we live in a state that has unfettered access to arms, and it's going to continue to put our youth at risk and to put our communities at risk.
She didn't want to come today because there's so many fights going on in Antioch all the time. So this is really not surprising that this actually happened, in my opinion. There's fights every other day.
It is impossibly difficult to be here once again dealing with the devastation of gun violence in one of our school communities.
That was Aaron Rodriguez, who is an 11th grade teacher at Antioch High School. That's Deontay Harrell, the district councilman who represents the area. Michaela McCree, local parent and activist. Tiffany Brooks, a mother of an Antioch High School student. At-large Metro Council member Delicia Porterfield, and Shantae Fry, another mom, and as well as Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Now, Catherine, you were at the scene at Antioch yesterday. Tell us what you saw.
Yeah, so I drove over there as quickly as I could, and I'm lucky that I left when I did because traffic ended up getting so bad that our second reporter who was supposed to join me couldn't get there. She drove around for 45 minutes and couldn't get within blocks of the staging area. So I got there. There's a huge police presence, dozens of police cars maybe, lots of officers guiding people. There were, hundreds of parents showing up really soon afterward. And everybody was just kind of waiting first for news. We hadn't had a briefing yet. And then they were also waiting to reunify with their kids. So the school had set up a reunification area outside of a medical clinic, and people were just sitting there and waiting. And we all a lot of people ended up in this MAPCO across the street. And I was watching parents, check their kids' locations and zoom in and see where they were, whether they'd been getting bused off campus to the reunification area yet. People were texting their kids. And there was a big concern there that a lot of parents were saying we didn't hear from the school, for almost an hour after the event started. And they were talking about, the push to get cell phones out of schools or to have kids lock their phones up. And they were saying, I really want to be able to text my kid. What if I couldn't have talked to them today?
Tell us about Antioch High School.
Yeah, so Antioch, it's a very diverse school, and it's kind of out on the suburbs in this very quickly growing area. But it's also had some problems with violence. We were going back through our archives and seeing all these arrests at the school. In just the past couple of years, a student has been arrested for bringing a gun into school during the day. A student was arrested for bringing a gun to a basketball game. Both the guns were loaded. There have been kids charged with homicide for this incident where somebody ran their classmate over with a car. So it's been a challenging time for that community. And we were hearing that in one of the clips you played. That was from an interview I had with a mom at the gas station who was saying her daughter was scared to even go to school because she's been seeing so many fights, and it was really hard for her.
Now, what do we know about the person who's responsible for this shooting?
To be honest, when I was there, I was getting the initial reports, so we really didn't know much at all. We knew it was a 17-year-old and that he was a student. We obviously know a bit more now, but I guess I'm a little bit reluctant to get into it too much. There are a lot of ethical guides for reporters on not, glorifying or glamorizing shooters and getting really into their identities and the things that are pushing them. But it does appear to be a very online teenager who seems to have been radicalized, with some far-right ideas.
Okay, we're going to go take a phone call. We got Jonah in Summertown, Tennessee. Jonah, thanks for calling. What do you want to share?
Hey, I just wanted to share that I think we can all be more vigilant to protect our communities by doing things like inserting level 4 bulletproof armor into backpacks, like what I do for my little brother.
How old's your little brother?
He's 14.
Okay. Keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, and I think we can be better about communicating what are some protective and defensive maneuvers we can take whenever there is an active shooter.
I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you this question. How old are you, Jonah?
I'm 24.
10 years ago, did you think about putting a level 4 bulletproof pack in your backpack and when you were a freshman in high school?
Absolutely, yes.
What was that experience like for you?
Well, at my high school, we had an alternative low population, and we never had any sort of violence.
Yeah. But it was something you were aware of. I'm sure your peers at other schools were aware of as well.
Absolutely.
When you did this for you,
it's something we can all do to be more vigilant with protecting our children and our siblings.
One more question. When you did this for your little brother, what did you all talk about? What did he say?
Well, that's pretty heavy, but the books are heavy too.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of weight.
It was just, okay, I have this. It was almost as if he was getting another piece of stationery or a new notebook, so to speak.
Well, I mean, it's something you can grab your backpack and you can hold it up in front of your chest, or if you're running away, it's protecting your torso.
Yeah.
And it slips right in.
Yeah.
Modular.
Have you talked to your little brother about what happened yesterday?
I have not. I actually just heard about this morning.
I really appreciate you calling and offering that suggestion, Jonah. I really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Of course. All right. We're going to go to a comment that we got shared. Lynn is a school psychologist from Middle Tennessee. She said she's dedicated to helping students, but that she feels helpless and powerless against bots, which are designed to break down the mental well-being of young people. She's going to continue to help, but doesn't know what else to do. And I'm sure that's a comment. That's something that in conversation I've had with people since this incident happened, a lot of people are talking about. Now, I do want to ask this of you, Catherine. Metro Nashville Public School Superintendent, Dr. Adrienne Battle, used to be the principal at Antioch High. What did she say yesterday?
From what I could tell, it seemed like she was in between a rock and a hard place because she was being sensitive to the fact that this tragedy just happened and that kids didn't feel protected and that all the security measures they brought in, like shatter-resistant glass and security cameras with weapon detection software, didn't seem to be enough to prevent the tragedy. But then she was also saying, as the former Antioch High School principal, she didn't want everybody to just write this school off as like a tragedy zone full of violence. She was saying learning happens here. There are people making lifelong memories here. There's magic happening. And I guess I don't know how she threaded that needle. I think it would be hard to do that. But she was saying, we obviously need to do more to make them safe, but please don't just write this off as like a hopeless cause.
Now, a lot is being done to make kids safe, and because there's a lot of pain and anxiety that people are suffering from after something like this. What resources is the district putting in place to kind of help students, parents, and their teachers, staff as well?
Right. Yeah. So the district gave Antioch High the rest of the week off to kind of decompress and process what's happening. They're also having resources like hot meals and grief counselors at the Southeast Community Center. And then similarly, the Metro Public Health Department is having counseling and other services available at the Woodbine Clinic today.
All right. You're listening to This is Nashville. I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're talking about the tragic shooting at Antioch High School that happened yesterday. We want you to call us, 615-760-2000. We're going to go to DeMarie. DeMarie, thank you for calling, DeMarie. What would you like to share with us?
Hi, Khalil, and thank you so much for taking my call. First of all, I'd like to express my condolences to the loss of life to those families. It's always a hard thing, no matter if it was the shooter or whomever, and express my sincere concern for the entire community. Having worked as a psychiatric registered nurse my entire life, I understand that there is a mental health component as well as the free availability of guns in our society. We as adults, somehow we can't get a handle on the proliferation of guns. What is it? We see what it's doing to our youth and our young people. We have to take some kind of action other than sitting back saying, well, let's increase this and let's put another guard here and put one there. That's not the answer. That is not the answer. And then with our young people, someone 17 years old who decides to take his own life, there is a mental health component at work. Sure, they're saying that now they found out that he was radicalized, but that in itself says that he couldn't reach out and speak to the people around him about whatever the problems were that he was being confronted with. So my heart is saddened, and I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else we can do except join forces and try and make some changes. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Khalil.
Thank you for calling and sharing with us, DeMarie. I really appreciate every time we do a phone show. You call us up with really wonderful points, and this is happening on a tragic occasion. And what you said makes a lot of sense, so I hope that resonates with everyone listening. Thank you, DeMarie.
Thank you.
All right, Kath, I got one more question for you. This is obviously still developing, and the story is, and law enforcement hasn't yet to determine a motive. As you continue to report on this and find out more information, what are you following or or expecting to learn in the coming days?
Yeah, I think some of the big questions that are coming, kind of like I just mentioned, the superintendent Battle was talking about possibly getting even more safety resources into Antioch High School. We don't know what those are yet. So we'll definitely be looking at that. We'll be looking at support services, the effect this has had on the community. You'll hear about this more from Paige, my colleague who's coming up next. But there's already been a GoFundMe established for the victim's family. And I think we're going to be looking at some big picture stuff.
All right.
Following days.
Catherine Sweeney is a reporter for WPLN News. Catherine, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Khalil.
We're taking one more break. When we return, we're going to take more of your calls. So Ricky and Franklin and Joe and Card and Nashville, please stay on the line. We're going to get to your calls. And we're going to invite Erica Perry, director of the Southern Movement Committee, and WPLN's criminal justice reporter, Paige Flager, to the conversation. And call us, 615-760-2000. And what type of action do you want to see? That's a prompt from our caller, Dee Marie. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. This hour, we're talking about the circumstances surrounding yesterday's tragedy at Antioch High School and gun violence. Communities and states across the nation are implementing regulations to keep people safer from gun violence. So what are these solutions? What does harm reduction look like when it comes to guns? We want to know from you. What do you think can be done about the epidemic of gun violence in America? Call 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. We're going to get back to your calls in just a minute. But first, I'd like to welcome back to the show Erica Perry, Executive Director of the Southern Movement Committee, and Paige Flager, WPLN criminal justice reporter. It's good to see you both. But again, under these horrible circumstances, I thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, Paige, we know a little bit about the person responsible for yesterday's shooting, and we want to be careful about speculating before law enforcement really had a chance to complete their investigation. What do we know? We do know that, one of the things that we're looking into is into how he got the gun.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were listening yesterday to Chief John Drake during a press conference, he was talking, he was asked by Catherine Sweeney, actually, about where the 17-year-old got the gun. And he said that he works closely with federal partners and they're doing a trace of the weapon. Now, as someone who's reported on guns for years now, what that means is that the police are able to run guns through the Bureau of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF. They have an e-trace system, which is actually only available to law enforcement officials. But tracing guns in Tennessee is frankly sort of a fool's errand. State laws have made it really, really easy to possess guns here without any permitting process. Background checks are not required for private sales, including sales online or at gun shows. That's not to mention, the ubiquity of guns stolen from cars. That's very common. And juveniles under 18, like the assailant, are actually not legally allowed to have handguns in Tennessee. So I would anticipate, with this e-trace run that they're going to do with this weapon, that it's really possible that it might turn up results from years ago or whenever the last official sale took place.
In 2023, you reported that despite years of lobbying by gun control advocates, the state has slowly become probably the most gun-friendly state in the country.
Definitely one of the most gun-friendly states, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I think 2012 is kind of a point to look at when it comes to guns and gun laws. After the Sandy Hook school shooting, a lot of states started tightening their gun laws in order to prevent something like that from happening. But Tennessee actually was one of the states that courted gun manufacturers that wanted to move away from these states that were tightening their gun laws. And Tennessee said, come down here. We're going to, the water is nice. We're going to keep making this a more Second Amendment friendly state. And over and over and over again, what we have seen over the last decade, more than a decade, is that tragedy strikes. And multiple times tragedy has struck in Antioch itself. And the legislature, the Republican-dominated legislature, does not address gun reform. And if anything, they pass things like permitless carry. They make it easier for more people to have guns in more places. And so you have these forces of advocates going back over and over and over again, trying to push for gun reform. You have a community that desires gun reform, and you have a legislature that will not budge.
Now, Erica, I know you're experiencing a lot of heartbreak. The fact that this continues to happen over and over again. What are the people you know and the young people you work with? What are they saying about this latest tragedy?
Yeah. So as you said, I'm just extremely heartbroken. I think grieving and really trying to process this tragedy and think through what our work is and how do we channel our grief. And so my heart goes out to, the families who have been impacted, the students and educators, and community that has been impacted by this tragedy. And so when, we're checking in on our young people, we're checking in on the educators that are a part of our base and our membership, and just people who've been working with, and just, letting them know we're here for them, that, we're praying and we're working. And folks are afraid. Young people are afraid, right? They're afraid to go to school, if I'm being honest. Educators are anxious. People are anxious right now and afraid. And I think the other piece of it that is important to name is that folks have been grieving the loss of life for far too long. Folks have been grieving the loss of classmates, in their schools for far too long. And so I think that is also what's surfacing for people, that residual grief and then that fear of like what it feels like to go to school and all that's going on. And so that's what we're hearing. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm experiencing. And I think if I can just say one more thing here is that what I'm also hearing from our folks is, how do we stop the bleed? How do we stop this from happening again? And if I can be honest, our young people have told us what they need to be safe in their schools. Mm-hmm. They have told us what they need to be safe in their communities. And I just challenge us to honor that, honor those demands, honor their desire for safety. They have said they need mental health practitioners. They need social services in their schools. They need restorative justice practitioners. And so as much as they need education, they need emotional learning. And that's a part of education. And so, that's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm holding. That's what we're hearing from our people who are in school, who left school early, right? Because they were afraid.
We're going to go take a phone call. We got John in Nashville. John, thank you for calling. What do you want to share with us?
Khalil, thank you for taking my call. I'd like to just say something on gun legislation. Tennessee is one of the biggest states that we have where the Republican Party has just dominated every single aspect of legislation. And all we need to do is vote these people out. Everyone has the right to vote. But number one, our young people don't vote. They want this, they want that, but the ones that are of age don't vote. For whatever reason, I don't know. But if we could just get the legislators out and put people that want legislation in, we can get that passed. I'm not going to call no names, but our legislators this past season won overwhelmingly. So how can you pass any kind of gun legislation where the people that are like at the top passing permitless, how can you not have a carry permit? When you had the carry permit, you had to go to a gun safety class. But at the top, they take that away where you can go buy a gun, have no gun etiquette whatsoever. And this is what's going on here in Tennessee.
I understand.
And I think it's just horrible that we don't vote these people out when it's time to vote. That's all I need to say. Thank you for taking my call again.
We appreciate your call, John. Thank you for coming on and sharing your views. We're going to move now to Carol. Carol B. in Nashville. Carol, thank you for calling. What do you want to share with us?
Yeah, hi. My name's Carol Buckley Frazier, and I'm one of the volunteer leads for Moms Demand Action Tennessee. Just listening to your program this morning. Yeah, this is just so incredibly tragic. And, when things like this happen, people are like, oh my God, how did this happen and what can we do? But the important part starts with voting the right people in. So as, this gentleman was talking about, gun sense candidates are distinctions we give candidates to set them apart from others, people that commit to working towards, gun safety measures in the state. And it's really important that we look at the issues before we vote and look at who is going to help benefit the gun manufacturers and the NRA and who is going to benefit their constituents and the people that live in Tennessee and their families. So when something like this happens too, I think, the only way this kid got a gun was that it was either stolen from a car, or that it was stolen from a home. It was found. And the root cause of that is some gun owner, and a lot of gun owners, most gun owners are very responsible, but there are some gun owners that are not. And so you get back to the crux of this. It was a gun that was unsecured and unlocked. And so until we're able to pass safe gun storage laws in this state, we're going to continue to have not only incidents like this, but irresponsible people who own and carry guns. So I just wish that people would think about the issues before they vote and before things like this happen. Because literally, if we could save one life with our vote, just one life, would we not want to do that?
I understand. I thank you so much, Carol. Thank you for calling and sharing with us. Really appreciate it. We're going to go to Ricky. Ricky and Franklin, you have something to say. You want to talk about lawmakers. Ricky, thanks for holding for so long. What do you want to share?
First off, I want to say, Khalil, you're awesome. Thank you for everything you do for Nashville. Thank you for making awareness of all these things that, sorry. Thank you for everything. Everybody keeps saying vote, vote, vote. It doesn't matter how much you vote, because our state is so gerrymandered that we're going to continue to have these same people get put back in office year after year after year. I think what we need to put gerrymandering on the ballot, allow Nashvillians or Tennesseans to vote to put it back on the ballot, and let's fix the state. Let's fix the lines. Let's fix Nashville. Let's fix Tennessee. Everything. I'm sorry. I'm very passionate because it's just the idea of people dying is just horrible.
I understand.
And for people to allow this to continue to happen and not change anything it's just going to get worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as these people are in charge and they continue to pass their gun laws and allow anybody to have a gun, we're going to turn into the Wild West. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. Really appreciate you calling. Okay, I'm going to go Paige, you first, and then Erica.
Yeah, I'm really glad that caller brought up gerrymandering. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is just disenfranchisement of voters in Tennessee. A couple of years ago, a report came out that found that Tennessee has the highest rate of Black voters who are disenfranchised in the entire country. 1 in 5 Black voters in Tennessee cannot vote because of a felony conviction. So I think that there are a lot of things going into how Tennessee became the Republican supermajority that we have today.
Mm-hmm. So. Erica?
Yeah, I appreciate what the folks have lifted up about voting. I think I have a few thoughts. One is that young people in high school can't vote. Many of them can't. They're not yet 18. But I will say this, that we work with young people who are politically active, who, although don't have the right to vote, they have been speaking to council, to their school board reps. They have been speaking out about transformation. They have clear demands. I want to name that and, invite us to support the folks who are politically active and invite them deeper into that. And the other thing is I'm thinking about, the tragedies we are seeing involving gun-related deaths for young people. And I'm thinking about young people 14 to 26, but specifically young people under the age of 18, is if we are to look at it as a public health crisis, if we think about it as the illness that it is, then I think there are many ways that we have to go about addressing that. There are many different types of, there's a prescriptions and holistic care that we really have to invest in. And so, for us, when I think about the work of our young people, it's the work of the demands, right, for the Varsity Spending Plan. I'm just reminded of why they said they wanted to see investments into restorative justice in their schools, why they said they wanted to see more after-school programming. And it's to prevent tragedies like this, because they know, what causes conflict, and they know what can solve those conflicts so that it becomes generative and not something that ends up in tragedies. They know how to help each other be connected, right, so they don't choose isolation. And they named the Office of Youth Safety as a way to really address gun violence through proactive ways. And so, and the last thing was they named community centers, investment there. And I say that as a last piece because these tragedies have been happening in the streets, right? They've been in our neighborhoods. They've been in our communities. They've been outside of grocery stores, outside of community centers, and now we're seeing them in our schools. And so the prescription that we need has to be holistic. It has to be a flooding of resources into our communities. Every community where we see young people has to be flooded with resources. And I'm talking about, we can't just get mental health support for 2 weeks after a tragedy. We have to ongoing. And we can start at Antioch High School, and then it has to be a wave that goes into Weiss Creek, into Pearl Cone, right, into MLK. We have to see a flooding of resources. And so, yes, it is yes, it is voting for people who want to invest in our communities. And it is also our work as a community to come together and say, what can I do to support my neighborhood, right? Can I invest in the PTA? Can I volunteer? That MNPS is asking for tutors. They're asking for people to mentor young people. And that's just a piece of it. But it also is investing in that mental health support, that emotional learning, that restorative justice, that conflict resolution. Significant amount. Our teachers and educators need support. Our young people, they need community to embrace them and support them. And so I just think we have to really come up with and invest and spend our time. And investment not just means money, but it means our time and our capacity.
And our energy. And our emotions. We need to put a lot into this. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're discussing the tragic school shooting at Antioch High School, and we want to hear from you. So call us at 615-760-2000. We're going to go to Joe in Nashville. Joe, thank you for holding. What would you like to share?
Thank you so much for taking my call. I really want to send this out to my conservative brothers and sisters that are listening. NPR's got a liberal branding, but to any conservatives that are listening, this is a pro-life issue. When does a child stop becoming innocent? You start with the fetus, and then you have the toddler, and then you have these kids in school. When do they stop becoming innocent life? And for those that think that having a gun will make them more free, it is just the opposite. The plain truth is, with every metal detector you add, every plate of bulletproof glass, every security officer, every metal detector in supermarkets, schools, churches, theaters, every single one that you add, you make yourself a little less free and everybody less free. And if you think I'm being alarmist, look at China. They've got cameras everywhere. They've got AI actually scoring people for their loyalty to the party. We are not far from this, people. We've got too many guns. More guns equals more gun death. It's just a statistic. Look it up. That's all I've got to say. And thank you for the subject. It's so important.
Thank you for calling, Joe. Okay, we're going to move to Carol. Carol, you're calling from a parking lot. What do you want to share with us?
Well, good morning. And can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. I am considered an elder, and I have had people tell me that my ways are old ways. But there's one thing I can remember as a child in a poor ghetto here in Nashville, is that my school system took care of teaching me to train my mind and my heart. The shooter and the people who died, they're people. And we are ignoring the basic. When I was in school, I saw a counselor every week that taught me around and into and about the golden rule. I have no need to want a gun or to kill a person. We're talking about politics and money. You have got to look at the mental state of the people. Once you look at that and take care of that, maybe they won't want to hurt each other. You let mental people come out of the institutions, which that needs to be discussed. You close down the community centers. You had people who were capable of keeping order when the children were young. We don't have that anymore. And the other thing they want you to do is entertain the feelings of the child. And most people who do that are insincere, because they will turn around and do some damage to you. Again, I have always said, counselors do not need to be taking data. Take it if you want to. You know, give them somebody to record it. Mm-hmm. But those children need to see counselors with programs that teach them definition, anger, loving, respect,
yes, ma'am.
Dignity, integrity.
Yes, ma'am. I really appreciate you calling, Miss Carol. I've got to go to one question and then I've got to go to break, but thank you so much for calling, Miss Carol, and sharing with us. I hope this is something that resonates with people and that everyone listens to. Really appreciate it. Have a beautiful day, okay?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Paige, you wanted to say something real quick before we go to break?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, we've been hearing time and time again that, I mean, it is an objective fact that Tennessee is failing when it comes to providing mental health care to Tennesseans. We also know that there is just an absolute ubiquity of guns, and we know what happens with that combination. Tennessee has one of the highest gun suicide rates in the country. And what she was saying about how this is about people, you know, the assailant was a student, was a child, and he shot and killed himself. He is now one of many people in Tennessee who is struggling with mental health, who ends up shooting and killing themselves. So we know what that picture looks like. We know what the result of that is.
All right, we're going to take one more break. When we're going to come back, we're going to talk about some potential solutions to gun violence and how to increase youth safety in Nashville and in all of Tennessee. We're going to keep the phones open so we can hear you and you can share your voice. So Edmundo and Jeff, stay on the line. Call us up, 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. According to the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth, an independent, nonpartisan state agency, guns are the leading cause of children's death in Tennessee. In 2022, guns caused 1 out of every 5 deaths among children aged 1 to 17. No school in the country is safe or immune from gun violence. No school in the country, private school, charter school, public school. Incidents like yesterday will continue to happen until our society not only looks at solutions seriously, but implements them. And I really want to be careful that I don't get myself fired, but I have to share this with all of Nashville and Middle Tennessee. As I was thinking about this tragedy last night, I said to myself, how can we expect the youth of our country to grow up to become adults who are well-adjusted and contributing members of our society if we ignore the very real threats that they are facing? How can Nashville call itself the It City or Tennessee be this place that we want people to come to if we do not continue to address this issue? It's been less than 2 years at another school a few miles away where something like this happened. And I normally don't get personal like this on the show, but I am tired of seeing young people die for many, many reasons. Now, with that, we're going to get back to our guests. Erica Perry from the Black Nashville Assembly and the Southern Movement Committee, and Paige Flager from WPLN, Criminal Justice Reporter. I really appreciate you both being here. Now, I do want to mention this, Erica, because you were talking about what you all were able to create last year with the Office of Youth Safety. And we have a clip from Kelsey Gibbs that she spoke of to News Channel 5, because you were all able to create and articulate solutions that at Metro Council meeting led to the first ever creation of an office in metropolitan government that addressed youth safety issues like we're talking about today. Let's take a listen to that clip.
It was the young people with the Southern Movement Committee calling for a change.
One young person lost to gun violence is too many. And already, and last year we saw at least 17 young people. We lost them to gun violence. This year, 12.
According to our independent count at News Channel 5, so far this year there have been 25 gun violence victims age 18 and under in Nashville, which includes accidental shootings. There have also been 24 suspects 18 and younger charged with murder. The Youth with Southern Movement Committee presented to council members last summer a $10 million varsity spending plan. It was dedicated in creating safer communities, addressing gun violence, and reducing reliance on arrests, courts, and jails.
What are some of these solutions, Erica, that could potentially help heal this city and protect young people across the Nashville and Middle Tennessee?
Yeah. Some of the solutions, and I'll just say we started working with young people in 2022 because we were working with teachers and educators who were losing students to gun violence. And so we were like, one of the things we really felt like we needed to do was figure out how do we organize young people to address the issue of gun violence, to make schools where young people have their needs met, and to and create thriving communities. And so, the thing that we landed on after a series of people moving assemblies and town halls, and I say that because the process in creating demands is really important, and creating solutions is important. So how do we channel our grief, right? So that we come up with solutions that are guided by our desire for safety and well-being and not grounded in our fear. And so we use that as a vehicle, and we came up with as a community really led by young people for the varsity spending plan, which at the heart of it included a desire for young people to be safe in their schools, to be safe in their communities, to be able to thrive, really understanding that they are worthy of a loving and caring life, and worthy of going to schools where they can exist as their full selves. And so, the thing they asked for and we demanded as a group, as the Southern Movement Committee, was a $2 million investment to increase the restorative justice practices at Metro schools, to increase the possibility for conflict resolution circles on an ongoing basis, not just after a conflict happens, but as the circles as a way to build strong relationships, to build connections. And then along with making sure young people have those tools and resources to restore relationships and to build healthy relationships with each other. The other piece of that was a $4 million investment in community centers. Really recognizing that community centers in Nashville can be the heart of a place where people build connection. Community centers have so many free services like swimming classes, basketball, places where people can come and do art crafts, but that's where we can build healthy, right? It can be the foundation of healthy relationships, of restoring relationships, right? A feeling what it feels like to be in conflict, to be in community and connect with each other. Okay. And then the other piece was a $4 million investment in an Office of Youth Safety, right? As a proactive solution to gun violence, as a way to get in front of it community-wide, but really thinking about places where young people have been most impacted by the criminal legal system, impacted by gun violence. And that would include conflict resolution. It includes thinking about the resources that young people need to build healthy and sustainable lives. And so, those are the solutions that we came up with. And I'm grateful to say that, Metro Council funded that, a portion of that by building the Office of Youth Safety, funded $250,000 to go towards community center programming. And we were just looking at that programming yesterday, and it's absolutely beautiful. And so when I say flood a community with resources and see how it begins to thrive, I'm talking about the work that folks are going to be doing in Napier. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is, we've been working with the mayor's office. to build out the Office of Youth Safety. And right now we're in the process of hiring a director. But again, the way that we channeled our grief and that hurt is we found hope in working together and building something that will prevent tragedies. And so as we get those things off the ground, we want to see it implemented across the city. We want to see our communities be flooded with resources to create thriving and safe communities.
Flood resources throughout the state, taking grief and turning it into action. Okay, I only have a couple minutes left. Edmundo, what would you like to share with us? Please be brief, my friend.
As much as I can. I just wanted to mention a couple of factors. I had a child at age 19 committed suicide, my own son. And I experienced a lot of failures on the medical abilities to really determine what was wrong with my son. My son was so smart that he would outsmart the doctors. They would just over-medicate aimlessly. They failed my son. There are medical facilities here in Tennessee that they don't realize when it is an emergency and the child is at the expense of their stupid decisions. Because before my son killed himself, they asked him, "Are you in a state of how did they put it, emergency or something, or distress?" And he couldn't even answer that. And they said, "Well, here's a card. Call us if you have any stressful situations." Next day, my son killed himself. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of ignorance in the medical facilities about what is going on really inside of the mind of a child. A lot of failure. Psychologists, psychiatrists, the whole entire community is just crappy as it can be. And I think that is one of the biggest failures. Not the weapons, but it's just how to diagnose a child and what he really needs. My son was put in hospital so many times. He came back the same way. It's still not a real pinpoint of the problem on the mental issues on the child.
Thank you, Edmundo, for calling in, and I really am sorry for you and your family's loss. I appreciate you calling and sharing with us. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You know, something that Edmundo mentioned is a failure of mental health services, of mental health professionals. But talking about this, it seems like we're all failing. Yes. There's not one area where anyone is doing anything right. Government, citizens, schools, cities, institutions here. My question is, what is it going to take? And I know either one of you really can't answer that fully, but what is it going to take for us to turn around and to start being human to each other, start actually being good to each other? Because this ain't the Nashville that I was told it was. This isn't the Nashville in Middle Tennessee that people say. What is it going to take?
Yeah, I think we have to realize we're in an emergency, right? This is a crisis. Mm-hmm. And I want to be clear. But what would have happened if after the young man who was killed in the park, after that happened, and then after last summer, when we lost a young lady in Cumberland View Apartments, what if after that we were urgent and we considered an emergency and we said that we were actually going to listen to what young people said in June? After they saw lives be lost, we said we were going to listen to them, and we acted quickly again, and we had the courage again to flood our communities with innovative solutions and resources. And I say that because I really do believe that young people have the answers. I really do believe that we have to act quickly, we have to be innovative, and we have to realize the crisis that we are in. If we are sick, and we are sick, right? We are dangerously sick. To really stop the bleed, to really stop this from happening, to stop these tragedies, we really have to treat it like that, because not to come up with solutions right now, not to say, hey, we're gonna invest $4 million in the Office of Youth Safety. We're gonna make sure not just Antioch High School, but the entire community has exactly what they need. If we don't say that, then we're gonna get sicker, y'all, and we're not gonna be here. But we can live. We can live in safe and healthy communities, but we're gonna have to fight for it together.
We are gonna
have to fight for it together. We're gonna have to join Moms Demand Action. We're gonna have to join Moms Over Murder, right? And then we're gonna have to join My Brothers Keepers and Southern Movement Committee, because we're going to have to fight.
That's right. We are going to have to fight. And I really appreciate you both being here. Erica Perry, Executive Director of the Southern Movement Committee, and Paige Flager, WPLN's wonderful criminal justice reporter. Again, thank you both for being here. And thank you for everyone who called. Tina, Jeff, and Elaine, I'm sorry we couldn't get to your calls. We will try to get your comment and add that to a future show. Thank you for all for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Mary Mancini. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Josh Deepin was on the phones. Our technical director and board operators, Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. Listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And the conversation doesn't end here. If you have a comment about today's episode, call us and leave us a message. 615-751-2500. Hit us up on Blue Sky, Instagram, X, whatever you want. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekalona. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. Be good to the kids. Be good to each other. I mean it when I say it. We got to do something. Thank you for listening.